Just getting these books put in a stack over here so that I can show you guys has gotten me out of breath already. Third trimester of pregnancy. This happens quite often now. Hey guys, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we have an unhaul. Have mentioned in many of my videos, I am currently pregnant. I'm currently in the third trimester. We only have a couple months to go until we get to meet this little baby, but I have so many books. I don't know the exact count off the top of my head, but I do have like a spreadsheet going in my computer system, and the last time I checked, I want to say I had like at least 1,500 books on these bookshelves. The last time I really got a good look at them, I had stacks all over, and so I decided it has been almost a year since the last time I did an unhaul, and I really needed to clean up a little bit before this baby comes, and so I have a pretty good sized unhaul for you guys today. I want to say I have at least 75 books, maybe even closer to 100 here. I don't know the exact count as well, but these are going to be in no particular order, but I am planning on getting rid of these books. Mostly I just end up taking them to a used bookstore near me to either get credit for them to be used for other books, or every so often I will just sort of sell them to them at a cheaper price than what I paid for them in the first place, obviously. But it was just really time to do this, and I will try to give you guys a little bit of information about them. So let's jump right on in, because if we don't, this is going to be a very long video. So the first three books that I am planning on getting rid of are the To All the Boys I Loved Before trilogy by Jenny Han. My dog is going to be quite loud. He's eating like right in front of me. But this is one that I fully read before the Netflix movie came out, and I did quite enjoy the first one. The other two were just a little bit more, I guess I want to say, naive for me. I understand this girl is in high school, has never really had a boyfriend before, but me being a 28, oh gosh, was I 28 when I read these? I'm 29 now. I just don't fully remember if I was 28 or 29 when I read these, but for me being how old I am, for being at least 10 years out of high school by the time I actually read these, they just weren't fully for me, I guess I want to say. I absolutely love the movie. I really did want to support this author, and so I'm very glad I did pick these up in the first place and read them, but it's just something that I know I'm not going to read again, and so I'm planning on getting rid of them. Then we have Brightly Burning by Alexa Dawn. This was a book that we received in a Shelf Love crate last year sometime. I did read this, gave it like a 2.5 or a 3 out of 5 stars. This is just a Jane Eyre retelling in space. I'm not the best person with classical books, I guess I want to say, and so this one did read to me more in the style of that classical novel than a sci-fi, and so it just didn't resonate with me as well. I'm planning on giving this one away as well. Then we have the Tea Dragon Society by Katie O'Neill. This is one that came in an owl crate, and it's a really cute graphic novel. I did read it and enjoy it, however, I'm never going to read it again, so there's no point in me having it on my shelves. Then we have Black House by Stephen King and Peter Straub. This is a book that I have had forever. I believe I got it secondhand from a friend back when I was in college. The only problem is this is a sequel book to The Talisman, and I don't own that. I don't know if I'm ever going to pick it up and read it at this time, and so there's no point of me having this gigantic book on my shelves right now. Then we have Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. This one actually still has a bookmark in it. I picked this up because a book box was going to be doing a Stalking Jack the Ripper type item in the box, and I wanted to see what all the hype was about. However, the writing style just really wasn't for me, and I wasn't enjoying the way that the story was going, and I think it was just more of the style for me, so I did end up DNFing it, and I am now getting rid of it. Next, we have Sparrow Hill Road by Seanan McGuire. I do enjoy Seanan McGuire's work, however, this is another book that I ended up DNFing and am probably just never going to reread or finish. This is about ghost stories, all sort of revolving around one girl who was run off the road like in the 70s, I want to say. And it just really read to me more like short stories that were sort of trying to be pushed together to make one big story. I'm not a very big fan of short story collections, and so it just didn't really fit together for me. Although I love Shauna McGuire's writing and I like other series by her, but this one is just not for me. Next, we have a whole nother series as well, and this is going to be the Strange Angels series by Lily St. Croix. This is a series that I absolutely loved back in the day, and so I tried to reread them this last year. I got through the first 3, I want to say, or I don't even remember if I actually finished 3, but I have never actually finished or even started these last 2 books. Back in the day when I first got these were like books that were sort of out of print. They are a little easier to get now because they have had some books published. You can get them from like the Barnes & Noble warehouses, that kind of stuff. You just have to order them in. But I read the first 3, really enjoyed them, and wanted to continue with the series, and so I picked it up, but it took forever to actually get back into the series. So when I tried again, I read the first 3, but I feel like the author was taking the romance in this series from a couple to a love triangle, and then I think the main character was going to end up with the other guy in this series that I just did not like. This is a series that has paranormal elements in it. So our main female character, her dad in the first one ends up turning into a zombie. She has to kill him, and then she ends up meeting like a half vampire type of character, and it turns out that she's like a half vampire type of character. There's lots of stuff going on, but the other third wheel character that I feel like the author is trying to have our main character end up with is a half vampire who knew our main character's mom and like had feelings for her mom and like sort of dated her mom, and it was just, that's too much for me. I don't like that character in any sort of romantic capacity. I really enjoyed the character that was the original love interest in here, but every single hint that we're getting in this third book going into the rest of the series is that that's not going to happen, and I just can't bring myself to finish this series. Next, we have a manga. This is Land of the Blindfolded by Tsukuba Sakura. This is a manga that I picked up when I did teaching at a school, and I did a manga anime type of club after school, and this was just one of those E for everyone type of mangas. I don't know exactly why it's still on my shelf, so I'm going to be getting rid of it. Couple more mangas here. We have Wotakoi Love is Hard for Otaku. This is by Fujita. We have volumes 1 and 2. This is a series that I liked well enough. I think I gave them both like 3 out of 5 stars, and at the time when I read the second one, I was still sort of interested in continuing with this series. However, I just really don't think I really want to continue with the series. I'm not willing to pay more for this series when the romantic aspect of it was not really, I guess, the full point of it. It's just not as cutesy as I thought it was going to be, with the whole fact that both of our characters are otaku and try dating each other because they don't connect to real people as well. So nice. I'm sure some people love this, but it was just not enough for me to continue with. Then we have Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Lost Slayer by Christopher Golden. This is a like spin-off type of series that has, I guess there was like 4 books in 1 volume. I picked this up at a used book sale a few years ago. The thing is I don't see many of these stories as actually canon for Buffy. I do read the, as I hit everything, I do read the graphic novels that have been released that are like season 8 through, I think we're on 12 now, but I don't see myself actually ever reading this, so we're getting rid of it. Then I have Animal Farm by George Orwell. This is a book that I have had since high school. It was okay. I, again, don't really like classics that much. I do not see myself reading this ever again, and that's all I really have to say on it. Then we have See You Later by Christopher Pike. Christopher Pike, I have quite a few of his books. He is like an old school, almost like R.L. Stine type of horror author, and I have quite a lot of his books that I read around like late middle school, early high school, and most of them I do still like. I do plan on rereading more of them, but this is one that I tried to reread, I want to say 1 to 2 years ago, and I DNF'd this. I don't remember if I knew how bad it was back in the day, but this one here just creeped me out so much. Our main character is basically one of those like I'm a nice guy sort of things, and he feels like he's in love with a girl that has a boyfriend, and it was very much insta love. It's very stalkery, and I just did not enjoy this. Then we have a Star Trek book here. This is Memory Prime. This is Star Trek number 42, and it is by Gar and Judith Reeves Stevens. This is actually a duplicate copy book. I purchased a duplicate copy of this at the last VNSA book sale for like under $1, and it was in a much better condition than this one, so I switched them out on my shelves. Then we have the first 4 books in the Tech War. Is that the first book? Maybe, I don't know. Tech War series by William Shatner. These ones I picked up at a used book sale many years ago was when I started, because I was obsessed with Star Trek. And these are ones that are written by William Shatner. I'm sure he has help of a ghostwriter in it. They're not bad. They're just very like campy 80s actiony sci-fi and not my complete thing. So even though I did enjoy, I think, the first 3 books that I read, I'm not going to continue with this series. I don't need them on my shelves anymore. Another book by William Shatner, we have Man-O-War. I actually don't even remember what this one's about, but again, picked it up during my really big Star Trek hype craze, and I'm never going to read this. Then we have like a free edition of The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. I ended up picking this up at Phoenix Comic-Con, or whatever they called it last year, and I just don't think I'm ever going to read it. This one doesn't even really have a cover, so yeah. More manga. We have Mermaid Boys Volume 1 and 2. This is by Yomi Sirachi. This is another series that I did enjoy while I was reading it. However, in the space between Volume 2 publishing and Volume 3 publishing, I just don't think I'm really going to continue on with the series. It hasn't gripped me enough to make me want to get the rest of them. Same thing with these ones here. We have A Terrified Teacher at Ghoul School Volume 1, 2, and 3, and this is going to be by Mai Tanaka. I really did enjoy the art style on this, and again, I want to say I give them like 3 stars each. It's a very interesting story that I feel could have been done a little bit more succinctly to get to the better parts in it, but again, I don't think I'm ever going to continue with this series. Yeah. Then we have some T.H. White here. We have The Once and Future King, as well as the Book of Merlin. I want to say like 5-6 years ago, had a really big King Arthur phase. I did enjoy this one much more than the Book of Merlin. However, T.H. White is a little bit of a slog to get through. The writing style is just not for me. I am never going to reread these, so I just don't really need them on my shelves anymore. We have a copy of Night by Ellie Wessel. This is another really important type of book, a very classic type of book. It deals basically with like what he went through during the Holocaust, but I'm never going to reread it again. This is just such a hard-hitting book. I don't really want it on my shelves anymore. And then we have another free book that I picked up at Phoenix Comic-Con last year. This is Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neuvel. I have the first 2 books of this series in hardcover, so I don't really need the free mass market one. Then we also have Believe by William Shatner and Michael Tobias. This is a book that I don't fully remember where I got it from, but it's actually a stripped cover book. So this is like the inside dust jacket, but the actual like cover is off. You're not supposed to sell these. Anytime a stripped cover is off of a book, they lose all monetary value. But it's another book that I just don't think I'm really ever going to pick up. More manga. This is The Captive Hearts of Oz Volume 1 and 2. These are by Ryo Maruya. Same exact thing as the ones that I have unhauled previously. I enjoyed these. I gave them like 3 out of 5 stars. It's just in between Volume 2 publishing and Volume 3 publishing. I just don't really think I'm going to continue with the series. And then we also have Stupid Love Comedy. This is by Susu Sakurai. This is another manga. This one though I did not enjoy. I think I only gave it like a 2 out of 5 stars. I just assumed it was going to be much more romantic than it was. However, the main character, I did not enjoy her. I felt she was way too over the top even for like a manga or anime. According to some of the like editor's notes in here, apparently the author is that over the top, and there wasn't much romance in it at all, so I didn't really enjoy this. Then we have the first 2 books in the, I think it's the Gallagher Girls series by Ali Carter. These are actually the nice hardcover versions. I have had these on my shelves for forever. I really did enjoy these. I think I read them like in high school or college. They're very fun spy type books. However, this is a series. I don't know if I'm ever going to pick up the rest of the books, and I don't even believe the last like 1 or 2 books got made with these covers. I do actually prefer the look of the paperback covers, so if I ever do pick these up again, those will probably be the ones that I pick up. But they've just been sitting on my shelf for so long without the rest of the series, I'm going to get rid of them. And then we have Memoirs of a Teenage Amnesiac by Gabrielle Zevin. This is a book that I reread earlier, either this year or the end of last year, and there is just some very problematic elements in this. For the first 2/3 of the way into the book, I was not actually enjoying it. I don't know exactly why I liked this book in the first place, because it was a reread for me. The last like 1/3 to 1/4 of it turned that around, and I really liked the way it ended. However, it took way too long to get there, and I'm just never going to read it again. Then we have The Forbidden Game by L.J. Smith. This is a bind-up collection of the, I think it's 3 books in this series. I picked this up a while ago. Enjoyed it when I read it, but it's just been sitting on my shelf for so long I don't think I'm ever going to reread it. This is like a book series that I want to say was published like in the late 90s, early 2000s, and for what it was good, it was enjoyable, but yeah, never gonna read it again. Same sort of thing with this one here. This is another Christopher Pike book. This one is Remember Me by him. It is another one that I think is a bind-up of 3 books in the series that were written like in the 90s. This one came out in the early 2000s or late 2000s, and I feel like this was a very popular thing to do in publishing around that time when we didn't have as many YA books. But this one here, again, enjoyed it while I read it, never really gonna read it again. This one has to do with like somebody that was murdered at a party, and then she either comes back as a ghost or something like that. I don't fully remember. I do remember enjoying it, but I'm never really gonna read it again. Then we have What the Woods Keep by Katya de Becerra. This is a book that we received in a unplugged book box, I want to say. This one was a new release for last year. It just wasn't really my type of book. I thought it was going to be very much more atmospheric and creepy, and maybe even some horror or paranormal elements. There were some paranormal elements in it, but most of the book was the main character doing like paper research, and it just moved way too slow for my tastes, and so I'm not gonna read this again. Then we have Peeps and Last Days. These are both by Scott Westerfeld. This is a duology that again came out, I want to say, early 2000s. This is his vampire duology. It was okay. I remember enjoying it when I read it. I'm never gonna read these again, and I really dislike these covers. Then we have The Leaving by Tara Altebrando. This is another one that I read last year sometime for like a readathon. It was okay, it wasn't the best. We had multiple points of views in here that just didn't really do it for me. This is supposed to be following a group of kids who were taken when they were younger, and then when they come back, everyone comes back but one of them, and it was just not really enjoyable for me. Then we have Douglas Adams' Starship Titanic by Terry Jones. This is a book that I picked up a while ago. I don't fully remember what it's about. I think it's a sci-fi-ish book about the Titanic, but I'm just never gonna read it. Then we have Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This is the copy of the book that I have had since high school. I recently got a new, prettier edition, and so I'm switching them out. And for all my talk of not liking classics, this one I absolutely love. Then we have the Camelot Chronicles. This is edited by Mike Ashley. This is supposed to be a short story collection of like King Arthur type of things. As I mentioned before, I had an obsession with King Arthur stuff years ago, so I purchased it. But as I also said before, I don't like short stories, so I'm probably never going to read this. Speaking of King Arthur things, we have The Mists of Avalon, The Forest House, and Lady of Avalon, all by Marion Zimmer Bradley. These are huge books that I had heard good things about previously, especially when I was really liking King Arthur stuff. However, within the last few years, I've also heard not so good things about the actual author, and I don't think I'm ever actually going to pick them up, so they're leaving. Another one by Marion Zimmer Bradley. I picked this up only a couple years ago, I want to say, but this is The Fall of Atlantis, another type of book by her, but again, I don't really want to read it. We have The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. I have heard from a few friends that I trust their opinions on that this is not the book for me. Apparently this is just not something that I personally would enjoy. However, they did tell me that her other book, The Secret History, would be more up my alley. So I think if I'm going to be reading one of her books, that's the one I should try. Then we also have The Cuckoos Calling by Robert Galbraith, otherwise known as J.K. Rowling. This one still has the bargain sticker from Barnes & Noble on it, even though I've had this for at least 5 years, I want to say, on my shelf. This one I picked up wanting to read them. I'm not really into this specific genre of books, and so I know I'm just never really actually going to read it, so it's time to get rid of it. Then we have 3 books in the drama series by Paul Ruditis. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. But these were books that I want to say I got in high school. They were all centered around a group of kids at I think it's like more of like a private academy, but the drama department is a big piece of it. And there's drama and mystery, and I think like somebody in here like hurts the original Dorothy so that they can get apart. So there's like not quite a murder mystery, but like there is some mystery in it. Our main character, I believe, is gay and hasn't come out of the closet quite yet in the first one, so there is lots of drama in it. However, again, I just don't think I'm ever going to reread these. I'm sure if I pick them up now, I would have some nostalgia for them, but I'm not sure if the writing style and the story is something that I would necessarily want to reread again at 29 years old. Then we have the first 3 books in the Study in Charlotte series by Brittany Caballero. I absolutely loved this first one, gave it like 5 out of 5 stars. Absolutely hated the second one, gave it I think 2 out of 5 stars, and because of that never picked up book 3. I am obsessed with Sherlock Holmes. I have a whole like shelf on my bookshelf just for Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Sherlock Holmes type of stories, and I felt the first one really did a good job bringing that into the modern day and switching the gender of our Sherlock, even though they're not direct Sherlock John Watson characters, they're like descendants of it, but I felt it did a really good job. This second one, I did not enjoy the characterization nearly as much, and the ending I felt was very confusing, but also I just did not like it, and so I don't think I want to continue with the series, so we're getting rid of them. Then we have the Diabolic by S.J. Kincaid. This one I got from a book box. I don't even know what one it was called, but this was a few years ago. It even has little post-its that have her notes in it. This is a like sci-fi-ish type of story that I don't even know what it's about. And I just don't think I'm ever gonna pick it up and read it. I've had it on my shelf for forever. Then we have a couple graphic novels here. We have Monster Elementary and Monster Elementary and the Egyptian Curse. These are by Nicholas Doan. This one here, not horrible. It was just the fact that I like graphic novels, but these ones are definitely more short story collections in a graphic novel sort of format. He has different authors and artists sort of going through and telling different stories, and some of the stories were amazing, but a lot of them were just mediocre, and I just don't really think I'm gonna ever reread them or continue on with any more of this series. Then we have the Nirvana Threads by Rachel Tremblay. This one came in an unplugged book box a few months ago. There was an issue with the book that was originally in the box. It wasn't going to be a hardcover, it was a paperback, so they put out a survey, and most of the people that subscribed to that box wanted a second book instead of getting money back. And so they went with a self-published type of book that is very short. The subject matter just doesn't really appeal to me. I don't even remember fully what it's about, and I'm just never gonna read it. Then we have the Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chokshi. I actually received 2 of these, both in different book boxes, so this is my duplicate copy. This one is the one I'm getting rid of. I am keeping the other one so I can read it. We also have Come November. This is by Katrin Van Dam. This one came in an unplugged book box, I believe, as well. I prefer the book boxes that really give us more of like a sci-fi fantasy book. This one is more of a contemporary. I had never really heard of it before getting it in the book box, and it just doesn't really seem like something I want to read. Then we have Amber and Dusk by Lyra Celine. This is another one that I received 2 copies of, both from different book boxes. So again, this is my duplicate copy. I am keeping the other one. We also have Pride by E.B. Zoe. This is the Owl Crate exclusive cover. I have said again a couple times in this video, I'm not the best person with classics. I know this is a reimagining of a classic, Pride and Prejudice, but I just don't really enjoy those types of like reimagining of classics that are a little bit too close to the actual classic, and this one just doesn't sound appealing to me, so I'm getting rid of it. Then we have What We Saw by Erin Hartzler. This is a book that I read pretty recently, actually. It was for the third round of the Buzzwordathon. This is a book that has very heavy topics, deals with rape in a small town, is based on a true story. However, I just felt the execution wasn't really where I wanted it to be. I give it 3 out of 5 stars. I won't ever read it again. We are getting rid of it. Then we have The Storm Thief by Chris Wooding. This is a book that I've had for a while. I did read it a few years ago. Gave it, I think, 3 out of 5 stars. I don't fully remember what else it's about. I think it's a sci-fi-ish, maybe dystopian type of book. But again, I'm never going to reread it, so we are getting rid of it. Then we have As You Wish by Carrie Elwes. This is a sort of memoir by him, but also tales of the making of The Princess Bride. I did try to read this previously, and it just wasn't really keeping my attention. Non-fiction books have to really do something special to keep my attention, and I usually pick up ones by actors or celebrities that I really enjoy, and I thought I was going to really enjoy this one, but the actual writing style of it just wasn't really to my taste, and I don't even think we got to the real good Princess Bride type of stuff in my first reading through of it, so I'm not going to pick this up again. Then we have Buffy the Vampire Slayer Volume 1 and 2. These are bind-ups of some of the short novelish type of books that they have for Buffy. Again, none of these are actual canon stories, and I want to say when I read them originally, most of them I only gave like 2 to 3 stars, but we have 3 books in the first volume: Coyote Moon, Night of the Living Rerun, Portal Through Time, and 3 books in the second one: Halloween Rain, Bad Bargain, and Afterimage. I'm never going to reread these again. I want to say that there was a 3rd volume, possibly. Never read it. I'm getting rid of them. Then we have Pants on Fire by Meg Cabot. This is a book that I really, really enjoyed back in high school. It's about a girl in high school who I think has a really, really bad habit of lying to either her friend or a guy that she was liking. There's lots of drama involved. I just don't think I'm ever going to read it again, so we are getting rid of it finally. We also have The Market by J.M. Steele. Same sort of thing with this one. I really, really enjoyed it back in like late high school, maybe early college, but I don't think I'm ever going to reread it again, even though I have read it like 3 or 4 times. But this one here deals with a girl in high school where people had been rating I think it was just the girls, rating all the girls on a scale, and so like number 1 is the top, and then whatever is the low number is the bottom, and she decides that she wants to like change herself to up her status, and, you know, makes her friends into enemies along the way and has to learn life lessons. It was pretty good when I read it, but I'm just never really going to actually reread it again. We also have Ghost Girl by Tanya Hurley. This is a book that I've had on my shelf for forever, it feels like. It's a very tall and thin book, so it's very weird to see next to all the other books. This one, again, I enjoyed well enough when I first purchased it. I give it like 3 out of 5 stars. I'm just never really going to read it again. Then we have Spectacle by Jody Lynn Dredonk. I don't know what book box this came in. I don't know what this book is about. I don't think it's going to interest me. I'm not planning on keeping it. Then we also have Pixie Dust by Russell Nohelty. This is another sort of graphic novel book. I picked this up at Phoenix Comic Con last year. I read it, and while I feel like the author had good intentions with this book actually needed to be like twice as long to actually get the point across in a way that made sense to the characters. It was just very, very rushed. And so while the art style was intriguing, and I just wish there was so much more of it, because I feel like I would have really, really enjoyed it if it wasn't so rushed. As in, like, within a couple pages, we have like a reunion between our main character and her mom that she hasn't seen in like decades. And then everything's happy again. I don't know. It was just way, way, way too fast. And then last but not least, we have a book that has an absolutely gorgeous cover, but that I hated with a passion. This is Free Chocolate by Amber Royer. This is a book that has quite a few bad reviews on Goodreads, but when I picked it up, it had like no reviews whatsoever. I picked it up like the first time it came out, when it came into the bookstore, because the cover was absolutely gorgeous. The only reviews that were basically on Goodreads were, I guess, people that had advanced copies, and there was only like 5 of them. But this is a book that I gave 2 out of 5 stars because I finished it. However, I should have DNF'd it. I hate read this one, and there are some good elements, so I'm sure that there are people that actually really enjoy this book. I was just very, very disappointed because in the back it tells you it's going to be this like big epic sort of fantasy about our main character stealing a cocoa pod to bring it out into space, because cocoa and chocolate is like the Earth's one major export to the rest of the galaxy. But because of that, there's lots of like protection around it. Like you can't get it from Earth without paying like buku bucks for it, and she wanted to take all these regulations and sort of bring them down. And then she gets like caught on a spaceship, and this is like all in the summary. They're telling you sort of like she's gonna be, yeah, she sneaks onto an unmarked spaceship. Things rapidly go from bad to worse, for the vessel belongs to a species famed throughout the galaxy for eating stowaways, etc., etc. She doesn't get on that ship that it mentions in this summary until like 3/4 of the way through the book. It just lagged so very much at the beginning. This alien that we have up here, which is supposed to be like a space cop, only shows up in like 4 scenes throughout the entire book. And our main character is supposed to be like bilingual. She's Latina, and so she uses English and Spanish in her speaking here. However, as somebody who has taken 4 years of Spanish in high school and then in college, I am not an expert by any means, but the words that we had translated into Spanish instead of just having it be in English or having the whole thing be in Spanish was just very out of place and took me out of the story way too much. They did an overabundance of the extra Spanish words, but also she apparently knows Latin and other alien languages, and some of the other aliens also know Spanish. It was just a little bit too much to be believable. As you can tell, I'm still bitter about this book because I'm giving it one of the longest explanations I've given anything that I'm unhauling today, but it's the last one. I was just very, very disappointed. I was expecting so much more sci-fi adventureness in this book, and I didn't get this, and I'm just so very sad because this cover is one of my favorites. It is absolutely gorgeous. Like, I just want the cover and not anything else. I'm gonna stop talking now. I'm done. So, as of right now, those are all the books that I'm getting rid of. I hope you guys like this video. I know I personally really enjoy unhaul videos, even if I don't necessarily agree with all of the reasons why people are getting rid of books. Subscribe to this channel if you would like to see more videos. I do have videos up Mondays and Thursdays, so I will see you then. Bye!